That's enough. Come on. I do not want you fucking chest thumping me, but
Welcome, welcome. We'll probably get started a few minutes after 7 my time. Um, but guys, getting comfy. Make sure you have a drink if you need. Let me know if you can't hear me. Just for the next way over.
I can hear you just fine.
Awesome, thank you. I want you guys to, while you're coming in and every one joins, maybe share where you're listening in from. Kind of curious where you're all from, and then also maybe your title or what you do within vet med and what specialty you're in as well. Hi, Berkey.
I guess I'll go.
Uh,
I
go
guess.
for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm Caitlin. I go by Burke or Berkey. I'm a doctor and I work with Caitlin, aka K-Dubs. Emergency.
Yeah.
I'm Rhiannon. I work in GP. I am in Iowa. We are registered veterinary technicians. I've been
Awesome.
in since 2019.
Awesome. Awesome. Welcome. I love your poodle's hair color over there. I assume it's a
Yeah,
poodle, right? Yeah.
yeah.
Or yeah.
Being
Cute.
very nice earlier. Sorry, I needed to learn to use the mute button.
Oh, you're good. You're good. Um, if anyone else wants to share either in chat or you can share vocally too, as people come in either way. But what I was having everyone share if they're open to is where they're listening in from or coming or in the country and what your title is and what specialty you're in, just to get to know you guys a little bit. Uh, Let me, in the meantime, while we get that in, share my screen. Um, and I will try. Lynn is in Rhode Island. Work in emergency as a hospital manager and also a CBT. Awesome. I know we've gotten to chat over virtually a lot, Lynn, and hopefully one day we'll be meeting you in person. But thank you for sharing, and I'm glad you're here. Let me pull this up here. Are you going to Nashville at all? Are you anyone? Because I'll be there. Very excited about it. Um, AVMA. Okay. I don't know if I've ever been to the AVMA one. I'm going to more though, so one day. But you'll have to let me know if you ever go to the same one. Um, but I today, one thing I was thinking about and talking with one of my business friends about recently was that uh the summer season's coming, and one thing that I always remember feeling is that once summer hits, I feel like I haven't fully processed or fully prepared myself to protect, myself, my peace, my boundaries, any of that before summer hits. And then by the time summer, usually just pops off, I'm feeling like I'm drowning. And so I was like, why not do a little webinar on it today? But um, what is PNWVMC? I am curious.
The Pacific
Rhiannon.
Northwest Veterinary Medical Conference
Okay, I haven't heard of that
in
one.
Tacoma.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Have you been to that one before?
I've not. No, this is going to
Okay.
be my first time traveling that far for something like that. It looks like it's going to
Okay.
be huge too. So
Oh, I love that.
fun.
I went to my first big conference in 2025 and it's crazy. It's overwhelming, but it's fun. It's really cool to experience and inspiring and learn a lot. So I'm excited for you. That's awesome.
Thanks.
Um, Ariel, I see your CVT. Welcome. Hopefully I pronounced your name right. But I'll kind of just get into it, and as people join, great. But if you guys haven't met me, I know some of the people that have joined either have worked with me or know me, but I am Caitlin. I am an MVT and a certified professional coach. I've been in the field for now 10 years, just hit 10 years in the field. I started in GP in a rural town in Minnesota, actually. I have family in Iowa, Rhiannon, so I know Iowa very well. But I, yeah, then moved to Denver and Colorado and now work in emergency with Veg. Veg is a great company that I can always talk about for hours. But obviously that's not why we're here today, but they have been a big factor in my journey and my healing and inspiring me to do more, help others on a bigger scale. And so it's always something that I will share in that they're a huge part of my journey and where I'm at now. But yeah, that's what I do now. I am a mom to a 7-year-old boy. And we also have a cat, Bella, who's 17 years old as well. So that's kind of busy, crazy life there. But one thing I wanted to acknowledge before we got started today is that you guys showing up today means something. I know a lot of us in this field are just so busy of taking care of everyone else but ourselves. And so it's really big that you took an hour to carve out time for yourself, and it's not a small thing. So just wanted to point that out there. But tonight we're going to talk about something I wish someone would have helped me with years ago, when I mentioned a little bit ago how I'd be drowning in the summer and trying to kind of backtrack or catch up to retake back control of my feelings and how I was doing and handling things, but felt like I just couldn't. So kind of go over what we notice before burnout hits, and more importantly, what we can do about it right now in the moment, especially before summer fully hits there. Um, so with that, I know um, with this busy season, and I know we always say summer seasons, maybe you guys are already in it. I feel like it never really stopped at our hospital where we're at in Colorado. We never truly had a winter, so I feel like it never stopped, and that in itself can be very exhausting when it's constantly busy nonstop. But one thing, especially I think in general practice, is where I noticed it the most, or urgent care, is that we get kind of this lull, and then it'd be coming to summer, and then I just feel overwhelmed and not prepared for it. And sometimes one thing I'd catch myself doing is that I would get into the busy season of summer, I'd feel exhausted, I feel overwhelmed, and I'm like, I just need to get through the summer, get to the time where things slow down, and I'll rest. I'll finally take that break, or maybe I'll feel better once things actually relax. And then come the end of that season, and I'm still depleted, even more so. I'm curious for you guys, is that something you've experienced? Is that something you feel like maybe even if you don't have a slowdown season, is that something you'd be like, once you have a slowdown moment, you're just like, I can't enjoy it as much as I want to? And things to maybe that you might notice before the season starting. Yeah, I hear you. It's crazy how it happens every summer. And you might notice that maybe you're more exhausted than you feel like you should be. You are getting your normal amount of sleep, but you still feel tired. Or maybe you're noticing that you're normally a very patient person, but it's definitely not as patient as you used to be. Maybe snapping a little more. Or maybe you're noticing that certain cases or certain shifts or just going to work is causing anxiety that's louder than usual. And then maybe taking a day off doesn't actually feel like it's giving you that day off or that recovery there. One thing that you guys had mentioned in the registration forms for tonight is that you told me you have a hard time with leaving work at work, that you feel responsible for keeping everyone happy, clients, staff, we're navigating compassion fatigue, work drama, imposter syndrome. And in some cases, some of you mentioned having brand new roles that maybe you weren't fully prepared for, and that you want to advocate for yourselves, but sometimes you just feel guilty enough to even try that. And trust me, I've been there, done that myself, and still struggle with it on some days as well. And want you to know it's not a character flaw. Every single one of those things, like it's what happens when someone cares deeply and they just haven't been given the tools to either to take care of themselves and how to do so. And so that's what we'll go through tonight. I think of it as information. When we become self-aware, and not a weakness if we're are doing things that we're not happy with. So we're going to figure out how to deal with those things. So I want to talk about burnout, and a lot of the things that I feel like there's a big misconception, and something that I've learned within myself is that we are always told that the environment and the systems within vet med are what cause burnout. We are told that, or even just feeling like the busy season of summer of the nonstop and not being able to get breaks, like the environment in general is what causes burnout. But I don't believe that it fully does. It's a misalignment within ourselves. It's us constantly not sticking to our boundaries, or not sticking to what we truly need and putting others before our own ourselves, is where the true burnout lies within it. And yes, I will say there's systems that definitely need rewiring within vet med and definitely don't help. It definitely does contribute to the burnout, but it's definitely not the reason for it, and why I feel like people continue to find burnout wherever they go. So busy season doesn't create burnout, it exposes what's already there. So the way we absorb other people's grief and urgency, we don't know how to set it down. The way we tie our sense of self-worth to how well we perform, like it exposes those things. And I know like hearing that might be hard, it might kind of land hard, but it's easier to blame the schedule. It's easier to blame management. It's easier to blame short staffing, or maybe a difficult client or coworker. And those things are real. They very much so. And like I said, I'm not dismissing any of that, but what I notice is that burnout tend to follow me no matter where I went. And like I said, with going to a hospital that actually supported me for once, and gave me the support I needed in the environment wasn't the issue, or the actual light bulb that was obvious, I still felt burnt out. I still felt like that lack of connection with myself. I felt like something was missing. So come to find out, there had been something within me, and the common denominator in there is that I kept bringing something with myself to each place that was making me feel burnt out. And so, but I now take that as good news, because that means that's something that's fixable, something that I can work on and actually be in control of there. So tonight, there's 5 things that we are going to cover. And they won't be generic wellness tips. It's actually a framework that I use with my clients that experience burnout, chronic burnout especially. So we're going to talk about early signs of burnout that most people are ignoring, how to protect your energy before things get busier, how to regulate your nervous system during stressful seasons, how to stop carrying one difficult ship into the next one, and how to build a real plan to support yourself before you're already in that crisis mode. So let's start with the things that, like, I call the signs that we normalize. Vet med, I feel like there's a lot of normalizing burnout and putting others' needs before our own, and just really not talking about the mental health or the hardships or emotions, any of that. And I feel like, because of that, we have a high threshold for what we consider hard. Hard as another Tuesday for us. Like it's just our normal life. It's what we're used to. And so there's a difference though between like a hard day and a pattern that we've been having built for months. And the problem is that early signs of burnout are easy to dismiss because they don't look dramatic. They look like that dreading maybe shifts that you used to love, not all of them, but the ones that, you know, maybe you're starting to name that you're dreading going in general. And you're now feeling like you have to survive the shift instead of actually look forward to it. Maybe you're feeling emotionally numb. You find yourself not feeling either much on the floor, like you just don't feel anything at all, or worse, you feel everything and you not being able to process any of it in the way you need to. Um, maybe feeling exhaustion that sleep doesn't fix, where you fall asleep and then wake up like you never went to sleep in the first place. And then could be also cynicism, like negative little thoughts or comments that just start slipping out that normally aren't there. They surprise you, maybe about clients, coworkers, about work itself, maybe situations that, you know, not normally people are in control of or you're in control of, but we find the negative in it instead of the positive. And maybe you have that thought that like, this isn't who I am. And I've been there too. It's not who you are. It's what happens when you've been already running on empty too long. And then another thing too is feeling responsible for everyone's emotional state, not just the patients, the clients, the team, the energy in general, like the culture of the whole hospital. Like it's your job to hold everything together and make sure that no one is unhappy. And that's a huge and enormous invisible weight that I feel like a lot of us carry into every single shift as well. Um, Also, I guess too, that I just thought of is remembering your why or being disconnected from your why and your purpose is another thing that you can notice early too of signs of going into burnout is if you don't remember that or you don't call into that or you don't feel that purpose, you feel disconnected from it, that could be a sign as well. Do you any of you feel any of these signs right now? Is this something that you're starting to notice? Or when you have experienced burnout, what usually are the first signs that you notice within yourself? Um, Curious, because with me, I mean, I feel like I do a little of all of them. The biggest thing I think is I will start talking negatively about going to work, which then brings in the energy of like, I don't really want to do anything and might come off as being more lazy, or just not as excited to do things. Yeah. Yeah, and irritability is definitely mine too, Lynn as well. Like I get defensive easier, not more reactive. And yes, lack of patience with yourself is a huge point out too. Like we hold ourselves to such high standards, and so sometimes we become more impatient with ourselves. Yeah, yeah, I hear all of you guys said everything definitely with me as well. But what's important with you guys noticing these and mentioning these, recognizing these signs is that first act of self-protection. It's gonna be when we're aware of it, it's gonna be easier to nor see it before it becomes too late, before it becomes something that we've ignored for months. And it's your body telling you, you need to pay attention to me, that something is not right, and we need to do something about it now before you feel like there's no escape from it. Um, yeah, thank you guys for sharing your signs. And so now let's kind of go into what to actually do before things get harder. And it's about understanding your energy. So with energy, a lot of the times most people think maybe physical energy and they about sleeping more, maybe eating better, exercising. And of course, those are very important. Those are things that I do notice better energy and I am more present and alert when I do those things. But it's only one layer, right? Vet med, we are expanding emotional, mental energy every single freaking shift, like constantly. And for some of us too, like it's something we do outside of work too. It's something that we've learned before we were even in vet med, that we just are always go, go, go. And so yeah, sometimes it's not an off switch, like you never have it. But within the field itself, you're absorbing fear from clients, sitting with grief, you're making fast decisions in high stake environments or moments, managing the emotions of the room on top of doing medicine in the moment as well. Like there's so much you need to be aware of. And, you know, this is where people start to get into trouble, is that they think rest means doing nothing. For me, like I think, after being emotionally and mentally depleted, the best thing for me is to lay in bed and doom scroll for 4 hours. And then I'm like, the hell? I just wasted 4 hours of my time. And now I feel even worse about myself. I feel shame and guilt now that I had all these things to do and I didn't do it. And it definitely didn't make me feel better. Like maybe in the moment for a little bit, I'm laughing and I guess that's something, but like, no, I end up regretting it more than anything, or I lose sleep because of it, or I'm ignoring the things that I need to be paying attention to, processing my feelings and what actually happened that day. But you need actual recovery, and recovery looks different for everyone, for sure. And so what I want you guys to think about is first, we need to know our limits before we hit them. Um, Not like anything, so like we we want to know our limits before we hit them, because if you get to that point where you're at your limit, then backtracking or trying to, catch up to a more peaceful state is going to feel impossible, and it's going to be so much harder than being able to catch it before you hit your limit. So most of us, like I said, we don't really realize we're depleted until we're at the point of we're snapping, maybe really short, or maybe we're crying in the parking lot or on the drive home. Like we don't notice it until it's that extreme and it's been months. And so what does it look like for you one step before that, or when you're starting to get to that point but you're not fully there yet? What does that look like for you? For me, and I know we've kind of talked about early signs of burnout, but usually mine starts with I don't want to get out of bed. I would rather just lay there and not do anything. Doom scrolling is other big thing that I'll do as well. Yeah, physical signs, huge. Yes. Um, Definitely. Like I said, mine is energy, but yes, or exhaustion, but anxiety, nausea, anxiousness, I definitely get GI upset with, nausea for sure. Yeah, I hear you in on that for sure. Heart rate increasing. So yeah, these are all important things to be aware of, for sure. And thank you guys for sharing that. But this is why I bring it up. So knowing what your personal early warning signs are is a good thing to know. And what is your limit? Is it like you said, like we already mentioned, is it when you hit your limit, are you crying on the way home? Are you just not doing anything and you are doom scrolling? So knowing what it looks like before you hit that is very important. Self-awareness is information, and then you're more likely to catch those things before it's too late. So secondly, with knowing that, we need to now communicate our limits before we're depleted. This is where boundaries come in. Not dramatic kind, but like the simple, clear, and kind ones is just like simple, clear to the point. Where, for example, in ER, where maybe I happen to have to take 3 or 4 triages in a row, maybe one of them happened to be a very critical patient who ends up PTSing, or something like that. And I just feel very overwhelmed, or maybe a case got to me and it's like, maybe it's asking on your team of like, hey, I need to take 5-10 minutes, just go outside, breathe, and reset. can you take the next triage that comes in, or just having that communication and having that set, or the expectation that I need to be off on time tonight. Like I have this thing that's going on, like just over communicating that. And I know that's uncomfortable and something that is hard for us to do in vet med, because we're don't really are taught not to talk about our feelings and emotions and not put ourselves first. So it's hard, but communicating that before you're at the point at your breaking point, for sure is going to be very helpful there as well. Do you hear noises? Someone want to say something? Just because I can't see the screen. But anyways, another thing that some of you mentioned too is financial stress as well, that you mentioned in the forms, that sometimes you have to pick up extra shifts to make ends meet, and that financial pressure makes it really hard to set your limits on time as well. And that I completely hear. Like I've been in places too where I am negative in my account and struggling to find, make things ends meet, especially as a mom now that lives on her own with her kid. And so, but I want to kind of reframe that in a way of like working yourself into the ground to maintain a comfortable living means eventually you won't be able to work at all. And so protecting your energy isn't a luxury. It's what makes this work sustainable long term. And so I know that doesn't mean that financial pressure isn't real, but we need to find ways that maybe be more creative and to where we can protect ourselves while needing to take on these extra shifts, for sure. And I love that you guys are very active in the chat. Sorry, I haven't been able to read it as we go through, but I love that so much. Yep, and I'm definitely going to talk about negative aspects of the job and comparing and stuff like that too. Negative thoughts, but yeah, so I know the financial thing is a huge thing that we have within vet med too, and that's something I do plan on touching on a little bit as well. But one thing I did notice with working on myself and doing my own self-worth journey and healing journey is that I ended up starting believing I was worth more. I started demanding more pay for what I felt like I was worth. Not only that, started being more creative on what I can do on the side that fuels me, instead of something that I feel like I have to do just because that's the degree I have in, or whatever that looks like. So working on yourself and doing these things for yourselves opens up more creativity and finding more flexible ways to make it not as stressful financially for yourself as well. And then third, build in recovery before you're empty, not after. So proactive rest is completely different than collapse rest. The one restores you versus the other one just keeps you functional enough to keep going through things there. So next we're gonna talk about the nervous system. Energy and the nervous system are deeply, deeply connected. And so we're going to talk about what's happening in your body during a hard shift and how to actually reset it. So I think of the nervous system as our body's alarm system. I know we've all heard of fight or flight, freeze, our reaction to when we feel like we're in danger. But this is something, oh, there's some drawing going on the street. I love it. I've done that before on accident in calls. But one thing that, within vet med, like if it feels like we have our nervous system going off constantly, like we're having that alarm go off all the time. We maybe have an overpacked schedule. Maybe we have surgeries that are running over time, or maybe they don't go as expected and you're having to add 5 things, or maybe we have a code, a critical patient, maybe a hard euthanasia. Maybe you have clients screaming at you on the phone or in person, just it's all over the place. And our body responds to it in the same way as a stress response. And it's not a bad thing. Like it's what makes us sharp in a crisis when things are crazy. But what's hard is that we never really fully come out of it. And And maybe, and I have this like belief too that a lot of us really maybe don't come out of it, because for me at least, I've always lived my life in a stress response. I feel like I have never not. I was always taught that, I need to be hyper aware of my surroundings at all times. I need to make sure like watching what I'm doing so I can control of how I'm perceived, or, just all the things where it feels like everything is a stress response, a flight or fight response. And so I feel like a lot of us like learn that before going to vet med, and so it's like it's a constant switch that's never turned off. But even then, it's like we don't know how to tell our body we're safe, that it's okay to turn it off, that we're not here at work anymore. Like, how do we then turn it off and actually feel safe in our environment and can relax? Um, and when we don't come out of it, like over months and years, like that has real consequences. And I know some of you have already mentioned physical responses, and illnesses that you do feel when your nervous system is dysregulated. And that anxiety is one of those, like you get body reactions of nausea, I know, just GI pains in general, like it's horrible, headaches, maybe migraines. Your body puts you in situations to where it's trying to tell you like, I'm going to make you physically sick so you can finally actually take the rest you need. But it has real consequences when we ignore and are in a dysregulated nervous system for so long. um, so I already mentioned some that of when what shows you you're stuck in those states. So being hyper vigilant, um, that was my constant life. It was crazy. Emotionally reactive in ways that surprise you. Um, like when you're on high alert, you get defensive and react on emotion. Um, Notice you can't wind down after a shift, or maybe on your days off, you still feel on edge. Um, but one thing that, you know, about regulation is that when you're in these situations, you can't think your way out of these responses. Because, like I mentioned earlier, you're in fight or flight usually within these, or freeze, whatever you do. But like fighting, like thinking through that, it's a high emotional reaction. And thinking through that's going to be near impossible. Yes, some of us can, but what's important is that you have to use your body and not your mind to regulate yourself. And that's something I know I didn't know how to do. And I feel like a lot of us have a hard time doing because we're not used to it. So things that actually help me come back. And so regulating to me makes me think we're going to slow things down. That helps us recognize the space around us. We are safe. We are in a place that, we aren't going to die. Like it's scary, yes, but we have our back. We're here. We have a team that we can rely on, like all of that. And so sometimes that for me, one is initially noticing the signs, like you guys mentioned. I know Ariel said, pretty sure it's Ariel that said an increased heart rate, like her heart rate rises, like starting to know those subtle signs there, and taking a second to actually combat that, and to way to combat those signs that you feel or those thoughts that are racing, is breathing, intentional breathing. So having an inhale that's shorter than your exhale and doing, 3 or 4 rounds of it. Physical movement can help as well, even if it's just a short walk, like after a shift as well. And just to help your body kind of wind down. Kind of think of it as like making sure you have a cool down after a workout. You've worked your heart out so much and your muscles, like having that cool down is important to recovery as well. So kind of thinking in that aspect, doing the same thing emotionally. Make it having your own specific transition ritual that signals your nervous system that, hey, I'm safe now, I'm done with work, like whatever the situation that got you very amped up is done. Naming, and also naming what you're feeling has helped me tremendously. Instead of ignoring that, naming what I'm feeling in that moment, acknowledging it. It might sound simple, but it actually helps discharge like a lot of that overwhelmed feeling. Because if you think about it, a lot of the reasons, at least why I would always feel overwhelmed, is because, or you might notice, we get more overwhelmed when we ignore it. But when we finally just acknowledge it and name it, it's like we're seeing ourselves. We're actually listening, and our body's like, okay, you're seeing me, I can actually relax now and I can actually think a little more. So naming the feeling is huge too, as well. And then I know some of you in the forums as well mentioned specifically that you're navigating workplace drama and not letting coworkers their actions affect you, and while also not trying to appear dismissive or cold. And that is also, a nervous system challenge that's very specific. And when we're already regulated, when we are in a regulated nervous system, like we're able to step back, be able to observe things, feel more open-minded, versus when you're dysregulated, you feel very closed off. You're not as curious. You're very you start to assume what other people's actions mean or what they say means. And so being able to regulate yourself in that stressful moment, you'll be able to open up your mind to be more curious and observant of the things around you. So regulation isn't about caring less about what's happening around you. It's about being able to stay rooted in yourself while it's happening. And with stress, the goal is to isn't to never feel stressed, because that would mean we need to be perfect, and that's not achievable. The goal is to move through stress instead of getting stuck in it and feeling trapped in it. And with that, does any of that resonate with you guys? Do you guys feel like you notice when hypervigilant, that emotional reactivity? What do you feel like stands out most to you when you're dysregulated? And is there something that helps you feel regulated or come back to yourself? And those are things I'll want you to make note of so that you can make this in your transition ritual. Yeah, it's really hard. And thank you for sharing that. Recognizing dysregulation is very difficult. And that's where self-awareness of recognizing, what are the first signs of burnout? What do you notice inside yourself? Starting to really listen to those signs. And it's hard when we don't practice that or actually, look into it more. It's hard to do that. Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. But it was me too. I was dysregulated 24/7, that like decades, like my whole life. That's all I was. Coloring. Yeah, I love that. Awesome. Yeah, Ariel. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, Ariel. That's why I say it's something that I've done my whole life. I've never not had a time where I know what it's like to have a regulated nervous system. And it's also why it's so hard for us to recognize in the moment. And I feel like it's why vet med feels so comforting to us, is because that's what we're used to. That's what we're used to. And so we go into it as like, oh, this is normal, But then when you have it in both sides of your life, your personal life and your work life, and that's constant, you're like, so something doesn't feel right. And when you're going into it for, decades worth of life, then you're starting to have, chronic physical symptoms and all of that. And it's just, and you start to question, life shouldn't be like this. I shouldn't be, in a constant state of fight or flight at all times. Yeah. So I hear you guys 100%. Yeah. Reliving things too. Yeah, I hear you. And kind of, I'm going to go into that in this next one. Because one of the biggest things, especially for nervous system challenges, and what Julie mentioned, is holding on to things. And so carrying shifts home with you or cases is what we're going to go into now. Cool. Awesome. And then, so I feel like this is definitely talked about more now, but it's not something that I feel like gets enough conversation in conversations about vet med, but well-being is the way that you're carrying after shift ends. And so I know you guys know what I'm talking about. That can be anything from, maybe it's a case you couldn't save, or maybe you made a mistake, and one of the worst mistakes you've ever made in your career, or maybe there was a client interaction, or maybe even a coworker interaction that's replaying in your head all night of like, oh, I should have said that, or what were you thinking saying that? Like you reacted out of like that wasn't their fault, whatever. The feeling that you should have caught something sooner. And it's just sitting in your chest days later, weeks later. I know there's things that I remember from freaking high school that I still hold over myself of like, why the hell did I do that? Okay, do you think anyone else remembers that from then? Probably not, but of course I carry on to that. But here's what I want to say about that. Carrying things home or carrying that stuff with you doesn't mean you care more. It means you haven't been able to be given the tools to actually set it down, or maybe just not sure how to fully process it in a way that you recognize you did the best you could in that moment and look at it as an opportunity of how you can do differently next time or how you would want to do different next time. Because I feel like why a lot of us get very defensive, or why you might notice other coworkers get very defensive to feedback, is because we are made to feel, even before vet med, uh, that our behaviors are tied to who we are as people. And that's not necessarily true at all, because, who we are deep down, sometimes we aren't at our best self, and sometimes we're interact and react to ways that don't align with our true values exactly. And so sometimes it's hard to not carry things or do any of that when we tie our behaviors and what we do so much to who we are deep down and who we are as a person, and letting it define us. And so being able to separate that is going to be huge. And I also want to talk about those who mentioned in the forum feeling responsible for keeping everyone happy, whether it be clients, coworkers, managers, everyone. That pattern of absorbing other people's emotional states isn't just exhausting. It's actually one of the core drivers of burnout in this field. When your nervous system is constantly monitoring everyone else's experience and trying to manage it, there is nothing left for you to manage within yourself or at all. You can be, and I fully believe that you can be a warm and compassionate professional without being responsible for everyone else's emotions. And I know it's hard. It's harder said than done. It's something that I've had to practice with a lot, but a lot of it comes down to where we don't feel worthy enough within ourselves, and we crave external validation for others to feel worthy within ourselves, and to feel that how people perceive of us is what is going to make us feel worthy, all of those things. And so it's trying to, if we can control how other people feel and we can control that, then maybe they'll like us. If we can make sure that they're happy, then maybe they'll like us more. When then what we're doing is just ignoring what we're feeling deep down, and we don't really know who we are anymore, and we don't even like know how to find worth within ourselves. And so that is something that I've learned, and had to relearn for me to be able to show up for others with compassion and empathy, but not take it on myself as well. Those that are the most resilient in this field aren't the ones who care less. They're the ones who learn to process and move through hard experiences, I can't talk right now, experiences, instead of just absorbing them and pushing forward. So what does that actually look like? I know I've already mentioned a transition ritual. So something consistent that you can do between work and the rest of your life that signals to your brain that chapter's closed, I'm in a safe place. I can actually relax. I don't need to be on fight or flight. Something that's going to tell you that. And for some of you, that could be as little as soon as I change my scrubs, work is done. I'm not thinking about work. I'm not doing that. Like those things are there. I know some people like to not have work chat or their group chat, their emails, like that is turned off. Like having something that you do that signals I am done. A lot of the time, like mine might be either journaling or doing something that maybe helps me get that stuff off my chest to where I'm like, okay, you went through it, you're done with. Maybe it's a walk somewhere, something physical as well. But um, and maybe too on the way home, having something that you play that helps decompress you. Podcast, just certain music. I'm a screamo music girly. I'll definitely use that and get some energy out. So maybe it's something like that as well. But it also means knowing the difference between processing and replaying. So processing is when you sit with what happened, you feel it, name it, show yourself compassion about the situation. Maybe you write about it, you talk to someone about it or out loud, and then just intentionally release it. It's okay to have feelings about it, but that doesn't mean like you need to fix anything about it or just ignore it. Like, acknowledge it. And replaying is where you're literally just suffering on repeat. You find yourself going circles over and over. And if that's something you do, then using that kind of as a signal of like, if you feel like you're repeating the same things to yourself and over again, using that as a signal to do something different, that you need an outlet of some sort and not more time just repeating yourself. You deserve to come home as yourself, not as the residue of a hard shift. Because I know most of you, I'm sure, not only you probably have families at home or people you care about, or maybe animals. And when we don't come home as ourselves, we're not able to give to those that we really truly care about and want to, and who we enjoy being around. And so, um, being fully present in your own life is what you deserve. So, I know we've talked about recognizing the signs, protecting your energy, regulating your nervous system, and releasing what you can carry. So now let's all bring it together to talk about an actual plan there. So here's a pattern that I see constantly, especially now as a coach for vet professionals, and I know it was me as well. Someone reaches out to me when they're in a complete crisis. They've been white knuckling it for months, finally hit a wall where they can't take it anymore. And I'm always so thankful that they reached out, because obviously we know what happens when we don't reach out and we sit in it. But I always wonder how different things might have looked if maybe they were asked for support 3 or 4 months earlier um, before they hit that wall. And most of us are in conditions to only ask for help when we absolutely have to, like there's no other option. We just push through, figure it out, wait until we have no other choice. And then now we're in the point of we're recovering from burnout instead of actually preventing it from happening. So a proactive plan looks like 3 things. So first, you know your early warning signs. You name those. Most of you named those for us today. Not the crisis signs, the first early warning signs. And we talked about like that could be snapping at people, especially those you love, losing interest in things outside of work that you normally love, sleeping, maybe sleeping more, maybe you can't sleep at night, you're up all night thinking, maybe you're doom scrolling, whatever it is, take it seriously from now on when it shows up. Second, have a support structure in place before you need it urgently. This could be a therapist, could be a life coach, could be just a community of people who actually understand what this field is like. Because I know that one thing that I'm getting a lot from people I talk to too, and I know I had it as well when talking to professionals, it's hard to talk to those who don't truly get what you're going through. Because what we truly crave and want is to feel seen and heard and feel less alone. And it's easier to feel that when we are talking to those that have been through similar things that we have. Um, and so, whatever that support looks like, build it now and not when you're in the middle of drowning. And lastly, choose recovery over pushing through. And then I know this is one of the hardest ones for us in vet med because we're conditioned to push through. That's what our whole life has been. But every time you override your own needs to keep going, you make a small withdrawal from an account that has limits. And eventually that account will run out, and that's when you hit burnout. And then a lot of you mentioned in the forms as well that a few of you mentioned that you struggle with self-advocacy, whether that's asking for what you need, advocating for better pay, or stepping into a new leadership role and not feeling like you belong there yet. Imposter syndrome and guilt around advocating for yourself aren't weaknesses either. Want to stress that. They're patterns. They usually come from a long history of tying your worth to how useful you are to other people. And the proactive plan includes starting to shift that story before overwhelming seasons like the busy summer season makes it worse. Because the busy season and summer season will always find cracks in how you see yourself and take advantage of that and cling on to it. So, summer doesn't have to break you, but you have to decide now before it does get busy that you're going to show up for yourself in the same way you show up for everyone else. So I want to ask you guys, what is one thing you could commit to doing this week to be more proactive about your well-being? You can drop it in the chat or share vocally if you'd like. But I want to just hold you guys accountable and like naming something that you want to do for yourself and your well-being going into this next week. At least starting. Maybe that's even planning your own transition ritual of when I do this, this is when work is not in my mind anymore. I'm done. Or practicing noticing those signs and actually putting in a plan. I'm going to step away when I notice my heart rate raising and taking, 4 deep breaths, whatever that looks like. Something for you going forward. And I want to say something that love that Lynn. I want to say something that I say to every single client I work with, and I want to say it to you guys tonight as well. One thing that I'm such a strong advocate for is that the answer isn't always leaving. Sometimes it's learning how to stop abandoning yourself. Because I know myself at one point I questioned if being in vet med was for me. And why should I be here if all I do is feel like I'm being beat up all the time? And I'm like, as much as I have that passion for it, and when things go well, it feels amazing, but there's more negative than there is positive sometimes. And maybe the answer is to leave. And a lot of people think the only options are to push through and keep burning or leave. And I'm here to tell you that there's a third option, and it starts with you. You can love this work and still protect yourself within it. And you can be fully committed to your patients and also have boundaries. You can care deeply and also come home to your own life at the end of the shift. I speak that from own experience, from my own experience. And I found it myself. And so I know that you can find it within yourself as well. The goal tonight was never just to help you survive the summer. It was to help you move through it without losing yourself in the process. And that fact that you showed up tonight tells me you already know that something needs to change. And what I did mention at one point is self-awareness is information. It's the beginning of everything and beginning to bringing yourself back to yourself. Actually learning how to trust yourself and see that worth within you by being self-aware of the things that you do on a daily basis or what you need to work on or where you want to be better, all of it. So for anyone who's thinking that I might want more of this, I want to tell you how we can keep going together if this is something that you feel like you are needing or feel like you don't know where you're going. I want to just tell you about Reclaim. It's my 6-month one-on-one coaching program built specifically for vet techs and veterinary professionals. We're done white knuckling it and ready to do the deeper work within themselves. The identity work, the self-worth work, the work that actually changes things long-term. It's the process that I took to finding my self-worth within me, that confidence, where I actually trust myself. And it has broadened to where not only in my personal life that I feel like I can advocate for myself and demand better environments with the people I surround myself with, but also in a career where I don't get as anxious for certain tasks or certain things like anesthesia, I used to get so anxious with it, but certain cases or certain situations, I don't get anxious anymore. I used to be medicated for it and I don't need to. Not saying that's going to be for everyone, but like I'm able to recognize that I have my back and I will figure it out. If not, I have trust in the people around you that you're surrounded with, that they will help you, that they care about you, and they will help you too if you need or have questions. But Reclaim is that, and it includes weekly one-on-one coaching sessions. So we're in each other's world consistently, where you have accountability and someone who knows your story, sees your patterns, can help you become the version of yourself that you're working towards. I have a school community where you are in a community with other vet professionals, from technicians to assistants to managers, actually, as well. Um, Everyone's welcome within vet med, but they're all going through the same work of the self-growth journey, the self-worth work, the identity work, all of it. There's videos in there as well, classroom that goes deeper into self-worth, and a lot of the things that we touched on today as well. But also the community aspect, where you can lean on each other, ask questions, connect, and just not feel alone. And all of that is built entirely around you. And if any part of tonight felt like, yes, this is what I've been missing, I do want to invite you to apply. I will here in a little bit put two things in the chat at the end. My free Facebook community that you can join. That's something I'm building too, to give similar support. But also, if you're interested in wondering if Reclaim is for you, I have an application that kind of has you dig deeper on a few things on what you want for yourself and what you're currently going through. And then just having a chat to see if this is the right fit. No pressure, no urgency, just an open door if you're ready to walk through it. But yeah, I know we have, about 5 minutes till an hour, but this is going to be open for you guys on if there's anything you have questions about. But anything we covered tonight about Reclaim or where to even start, you can unmute, you can drop in the chat. What questions do you guys have for me, if any?
Can you hear me okay?
I can, yes.
Yay. I just want to say thanks so much. And basically, the whole seminar resonated with me, and realizing that I do need more tools. So, and realizing that I need to build better habits. So, but thank you so much for putting it on, and
Yeah.
really happy you did this.
Yeah. Thank you for attending. And I know, because we see each other personally, if you ever want to talk more on that one-on-one, what those boundaries that you maybe are wondering you need to set or anything like that, please don't hesitate. But yeah, I thank you for sharing that. And thank you, Lynn, for your words too. If you guys don't have a question, maybe if you want to drop like your biggest takeaway going forward for today or anything like that. But also, I want you guys to know, like, you aren't alone. We've gone, I mean, most of us even before joining the field, and I know, like, vet med exposes a lot of the behaviors we were taught when we were younger, and it just feels more prominent because we're in an environment that's very heavy on us putting others first before ourselves. But you are not alone. And one thing that I have learned in my journey is that being alone and loneliness is the hardest thing I've ever felt. And when I had the support system of those who truly wanted the best for me and wasn't pulling me back down or telling me I needed to stay small or any of that, and having a community is what helped me get through my divorce and being a single mom and all of that stuff that I was going through personally. And the team as well, like the team you have matters too. And we're just all struggling, and I think we tend to forget that. And just coming together in a community aspect, it helps so much in recognizing we can get through this and that there is better for us out there. And yes, I thank you. Building a strong plan before you need it. Yeah, I sometimes it's hard to, when you're not prepared for how to handle things, it's hard to do in the moment. how do you excuse me? How do you expect for you to react in a or respond to a nervous system dysregulation or stress response when we don't really have an idea of what to look up for or how we want to combat that in the moment? Because like I said, you're not going to be able to think yourself through it. You're going to have to use your body to break that cycle to then think through it as well. Yeah. Julie mentioned how always suffered major burnout at some previous jobs. Same here. Never considered that high of a problem. So I'm glad I'm going to get ahead of it and be proactive. I love that. Really do love my current job. We love you. So, and I don't want to go through it again. Yeah, I hear you. And it's something like I didn't realize until I was at a place that I really enjoyed that it hit me that, oh, I think it's within me that I need to look because now my environment's not contributing. Yeah, there's always going to be some flaws, but it's not my environment contributing anymore. So now that means there must be something within me. And so that's why I also try to teach that, because if the sooner we can catch that, hey, it's okay to look inside ourselves. It's okay to hold ourselves accountable for our part in the negativity in vet med, our part in the not demanding better for ourselves in vet med. It's okay to do so, because if we name that, that means all we can do is get better. All we can do is demand better. Ariel says, you really can't safely, efficiently, or effectively help others if you can't help yourself. Put yourself first. 100%. 100%. Yeah, I love that. On here, I have my website, I have my email, I have my business phone number too. Like if there's anything that you guys just have questions or there's something specific that you're experiencing and you want to reach out for, don't hesitate. I'm a vet med life coach on all platforms, mainly most active on Instagram, but you can find me on all platforms if you want to listen to similar content than what you've heard here tonight as well. But I want, and I know you guys already shared your takeaways, so it makes me happy to know that you kind of see, a way forward. You see a way that you can be in control of how you handle things, and taking one small action that you plan on doing to just show up for yourself a little more intentionally, just to, because we got to start small. We can't just expect ourselves to go completely into doing everything perfectly, because that's not achievable. So doing one thing consistently and practicing that and adding as you go is going to be key. You guys all do important work and you deserve to be taken care of too. Yeah. What I can do, let me drop really quickly before you all, if you need to leave, you can, but I'm just going to drop the Facebook community quick if you guys want to join that. So like I said, I have like 40 people in it now, so it's growing, where you can join that. I'm posting in there. I do lives occasionally as well. But just to help you kind of think about things or make you feel seen and heard, you can post in there. You can share things you're going through as well. And then this one is Reclaim application as well, if anyone is interested in learning more about that. But otherwise, that's what I have for you guys. I will keep your emails and for future stuff for future webinars to make sure that you guys have access to that if you'd like. But yeah, if you need anything, just reach out. And I hope you all have a great night. But just remember, you're not alone, and you deserve to live a life where you're happy with and can be in this field long term. So. Yeah, thank you guys for being so present in the chat. You guys have a good night.